It's very good to have your voice in this big conversation. When you saw the pictures of Trump supporters storming the Capitol on this historic January 6, 2021, were you surprised?
No, unfortunately, I wasn't surprised. We've seen this, the previews of this were building and building and building. We understood that this was going to be an extra legal and extra political avenue that they would pursue to try to retain political power. And so I was not shocked. And I also wasn't shocked on a more fundamental level, which is conservatism and republicanism traditionally were great respecters of institutions, of American history. But with Trump, they always live in the year zero. This is always the immediate moment. And so their anger was taken out not only on the Capitol Police with fatal consequences, but also taken out on the history of this country and of our pluralistic society and our democratic system. They were angry that their candidate lost a vote, and they didn't do what Americans have done for hundreds of years, which is to accept those results. They decided instead to have a little mini rebellion, an insurgency, if you will.
So talk a little bit about Trump's role of this very day. I mean, I'm sure you listened to the speech he delivered around 11:30 or so local time. Would you agree that this was kind of the initiative of this march towards the Capitol, or which role does this speak really play in this whole development of this day?
Well, I think the two statements he's issued since the attack, that 1-minute video and this speech, both of those were only because he feels he's in legal peril now. He feels he is as a degree of political and legal risk that he did not have before. And I think because of that, he is trying to hedge his bets. Now, his followers are not in any way deterred by this. They are angry. They are energized. They're still talking about doing a massive march on the 17th of January and a 1 million militia march in DC, an armed march in DC on the 20th of January. I think both of those present remarkable risks to the stability of the country. And the president could and should say something about them, but he will not.
Let's talk a little bit about the Republican Party. I mean, we saw the reactions of Mike Pence and Mitch McConnell, who finally both accepted the outcome of the election. But tell us a little bit, what do you make of their latest remarks?
Look, I think it's a day late and a dollar short. This election, the outcome has been clear since a couple days after the election. They have all participated in this ongoing sustaining operation to convince people that there was some sort of fraud or cheating or irregularities of a certain scale. It was, of course, all false from the beginning, and yet they persisted in telling those lies until today. They are in part responsible for the outcomes, because they kept telling people, sure, the president's right, it's false, it was stolen, the election was rigged, you've been screwed. So Josh Hawley and Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz and Ron Johnson and Marsha Blackburn and Mitch McConnell and all the rest in the Senate, they took on a responsibility for what happened yesterday when they kept persisting in this lie. So they get no credit. They get no credit for last-minute road to Damascus conversions.
So how can?
Now, give me 1 second. My dogs are everywhere. Come on. Come on. Gross.
What kind of dogs do you have, Rick?
3 German short-haired pointers.
Okay, nice ones. So how can the GOP get out of this situation? What should they do now?
Well, I'm at the point personally where I don't really care what they do. They made their bed and they're going to have to lay in it for a while. They need, in my view, to have a purge of Trumpism from the party. I don't think they'll do it. I don't think that they're mentally or politically capable of doing it. And I think it has enormous downside risks for them, but that does not seem to matter at all. That it does not seem to matter that sustaining the lies of Trump and Trumpism has damaged the country. They don't care about that. They're a little worried in the short term about their political positioning, but in the long term, they're not worried about anything.
What does that mean for, let's say, the more moderate Republicans? Where do they find their political home in the future?
Well, that's a real challenge because there is no moderate Republican Party. There's only the Trump Party or the not Trump Party. You know, you have many people who are very conservative. Liz Cheney in the House, you know, plenty of liberals disagree with Liz Cheney on a million policy issues, but she has been opposed to the president's behavior in this thing because she thinks it's anti-American, anti-small d democratic. And insofar as you have conservatives who are upset with the president, they have nowhere to go. We may be at a point of a schism in the party. The Whig Party in America collapsed in 1854 because the Kansas-Nebraska Act that the Whig Party endorsed extended slavery into the West. They could not politically survive that. And the Whig Party disappeared and died. We may be at a point where the Republican Party as we knew it will disappear and die and be replaced by a Trump party and a center-right party. And, you know, to make the German analogy, the Trump party is the AfD, rising, insurgent, crazy, and the old Republican Party is probably more CSU than CDU, but explicably conservative. So we'll see where that goes in the coming years, but there's the schism is profound.
What do we have to expect, like, let's say, within the next 6 months or so, within the Republican Party? What will happen?
We're going to see a massive surge of candidates who, in the 2022 election, who are more like Trump, who are more conspiratorial, who are more QAnon, who are more crazy, who are more off the rails. Those people will be more and more a centerpiece of what is going on with the Republican Party. It will take a long time before there's either a purge of those people or their electoral failures accrue to the point where other people who are conservatives say, we can't go down that path any longer.
Do you see any leaders for a more kind of, let's say, moderate Republican Party? Are there any figures who would be willing maybe even to fund their own party or to start their own party? Party
building is a hard job in this world. It's a very, very tough job. And I don't think we're going to end up seeing a alternative to the Republican Party in the 2022 cycle, but we may see it in the 24 cycle. And I think you've seen people standing up in recent days, Mitt Romney, Ben Sass, Toomey, and those of us who left the Republican Party, have all been very vocal. So there may be another party in this country, another center-right party in the future. I don't know what that's going to be yet, though.
What does that all mean for President-elect Joe Biden? How can he work with this Republican Party, which we see right now?
It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very hard because they're going to be dedicated to destroying his administration from the day one. And Joe Biden has pressures on the left and the right. But what he needs to focus on is very simple. It's one word, and it's COVID. He needs to handle the COVID crisis in this country, get a vaccination program in place, get the economic relief moving, because COVID is the #1 driving factor. Once Trump is gone, that will be the problem that faces us in every moment of the day. We're losing 5,000 Americans a day right now. It's horrifying. So Biden's #1 job is dealing with COVID. And if Republicans don't want to be along for that ride, I think that's going to be politically damaging for them. And I think they're going to have problems down the line because of it.
Rick, last question. Should Donald Trump be impeached one more time?
Absolutely. Today, right now. If I were Speaker of the House, we would be in session right now impeaching the president, this very moment.
Why?
Because he has incited insurrection. He has committed sedition. He has attempted to overthrow a legally constituted U.S. election. He has provoked violence. He has provoked an attempted takeover of our legislative body with consequences that led to the deaths of 5 Americans. He is responsible for this. He is the proximate cause of this. He should be impeached and removed from office, and he should never be allowed to hold elected office again.
Are there any chances that this is going to happen?
It's a low probability event, but it's certainly moving forward right now with a great degree of velocity.
Mm. Do you fear violence again in Washington, D.C.?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about it. What do you see coming in the next 10, 12, 13 days?
I'm more afraid of 25 guys who know what they're doing than 2,500 morons charging in and smearing poop on the walls. What this showed was that the Capitol could be penetrated. It had no security to speak of. And if those folks had been ISIS or Al-Qaeda, it could have been a mass casualty event. It could have been an event of horrifying proportions. You know, the irony of the president's position is that in 2016, they called it the Flight 93 election, named after the flight that the passengers brought down in Pennsylvania when the Al-Qaeda folks had hijacked it. That flight was headed for the U.S. Capitol. And so a lot of people said, well, Trump's election is the Flight 93 election. We either take out Hillary or we don't know. We may die in the process, but we don't know. Ironically now, they've adopted the tactics of Al-Qaeda. They've adopted the tactics of terror. They've adopted the tactics of an insurgency. And so unless we push back on this very quickly and with great consequences for the people involved, we will get more of the same, I'm afraid.
When you saw these pictures, what did you make of the police, and how could it be that it was so easy for these people to storm the buildings?
There has been a leadership failure in the Capitol Police of a tragic and epic proportion. I think there's going to be a lot of investigations going forward on this to find out what and how it happened, what happened and how. And I think it is incredibly dangerous that they were opening the gates for these folks. They were letting them in. And once they were let in, all bets were off.
What are we going to see on January 20th?
We won't see Donald Trump. He's not going to attend the inauguration. And I'm okay with that. I am hopeful we will see a peaceful transfer of power. I am hopeful that the president will see his legal peril if he continues to encourage violent insurgency and sedition. And I am hopeful that we're going to see Joe Biden sworn in at 12:01.